Hello everyone. I, Assistant Professor Abhigna Vaishnav, once again welcome you all to the video lecture series for the subject Service Marketing for Semester 9 LJ Integrated MBA. Well, in Module 3, today we'll be starting the 6th P, that is Service Process. Well, yes, service being intangible thing, like in the case of products, we have production process wherein the input gets processed and turns out to be an output. So in case of process, what is to be processed? Actually, the real mechanism, the automated mechanism of service delivery is the process. We can know the route from the provider till the receiver. Different service sectors have got different processes. Like in the case of banks, they do have different processes for deposits, for withdrawal, and for the different products like mutual fund and insurance. So, to know the process, we'll be studying service process. The flow goes like this. We'll be studying the flow charting of customer service experience. We'll be studying the blueprinting of services to generate the productive operations and the valued experience. We'll also study the process redesign part. Then we'll treat our customer as a co-producer. And then at the end, we'll study the self-service technologies. While studying this chapter, this would reduce the variability part that we have done in the characteristics of services. Even if the people differ while delivering the service, this amounts to less amount of the variability. So if we have your process intact, the variability would not be there. First, we'll start with flow charting of services for the entire customer experience. Well, what do you mean by flow chart? Flow chart denotes the sequence or the flow of activities from the provider till the receiver. It denotes the total customer experience that we deliver. As the involvement of customer differ in the different types of services, the process would differ. As we have seen in the categories of services, we have people processing, possession processing, mental stimulus processing, and information processing. Now, if we see the examples of each, in the case of people processing, like for example, if I want to stay in a motel or a hotel, I'll just go there, park my car, do the check-in formalities, I'll stay there for a night. In the morning, I'll take my breakfast and do the checkout formalities. Now, this is the flow where the people are being processed. But at the backstage, by the time you are doing your check-in formalities, your rooms and the facilities are being arranged. By the time you are staying there, your breakfast is being ready by the staff. So, these are the backstage operations. Both frontline and backstage operations should be in sync. That's why the process is required. In case of possession processing, take the example, if I want my vehicle or my DVD player to get it repaired, I'll just visit the store. The technician would observe the fault. He would do it. We would leave the possession there and there. Then again in the next day, I'll come there and pick up the device or the DVD player, and at home I'll try to play it. Wherein the actual process has been done on the possession which I have left there. So, backstage and front stage process differs as your people or possession differ. In the case of mental stimulus processing, like take the example of a weather forecast. I'll just switch on my TV sets, I'll just see the news of forecast, and I'll decide my picnic plans. That's the front end activities. But at the backstage, the people there are working who collects information, who put them into the process, into the mechanism, and they display on the TV sets for us to decide our picnic plans. So, again, the process should be in sync. In the case of information processing, like in the case of health insurance, I would choose from the available options, I'll select the plan, then I'll pay the premium, then over my insurance cover would start and I'll get the documents of the policies. But at the backstage, there are people working who have ready the plans for us. They'll make the database as soon as we pay the premium. The database should be ready so as to deliver us the policy that we require. So this is how flowchart works. Then comes blueprinting of services. What do you mean by blueprinting? Blueprinting, it's a technical drawing. It's a reproduction of a technical drawing which suggests us the bigger picture. We'll just have to identify the key activities, see the bigger picture, and then drill it down to the narrow one. Well, if you see the advantages of blueprinting, it helps us in distinguishes between front stage and backstage activities. It helps us in identifying the interactions points. It helps us in reducing the failure points and the waiting time zone. Well, in case of blueprinting, you should be able to identify the key elements. You should have the set standards for your frontline employees. Accordingly, they should be arranging the physical evidence. You should be able to identify the customer interactions point with your frontline employees. That's your line of visibility. When your frontline employees talk with the backstage operations, that's the line of interaction. And the backstage operations are always backed up with the people and the IT systems that you have. Well, the objectives behind blueprinting is we want to reduce the number of failures and the waiting time period. We want our service to be standardized and we want a fail-proof process. So, if we take the example of again, hotel. If I do the reservation system, I'll contacting the receptionist. That's my line of visibility. As soon as the receptionist checks the records, the availability of rooms, that's the line of interaction that he or she has with the backstage operations. And meanwhile, the support system is very much there to maintain the record. Like in the case of restaurant, treat that as a drama place. There are 3 acts unfolding. In the Act 1, wherein the introductory scenes are there. In the Act 2, we are actually collecting the core service, the main part. We are actually seeing from the menu card. We are actually ordering from the menu card. The waiter job is to see to it whether the items are available as per the menu list, as per the ordered one. And the important part is how he transmits information to the kitchen so as to get the order fulfilled. And the Act 3, the drama concludes. All the supporting activities should run smoothly. The payment should be handled with proper care. And we should be greeted with thanks because of our patronage to the hotel or the restaurant. So this is how blueprinting is helpful, because first impression is the last impression. Well, as we want the fail-proof process, we should be able to identify the failure points. You should have the alternative procedures for that. You should have the methods for your customers and for employees so as to minimize the failure rates. We should have a standard set. Set the standards first for your frontline employees. Performance targets should be set so that staff can work accordingly and evaluate them according to your standards and targets. Because, as I told you, first impression is the last impression. The mistakes committed during low contact services cause serious damage more compared to the high contact services. So that's how blueprinting helps us the most. Well, in case of redesigning services, why redesign? If you have done your process well, why redesign? Sometimes you need to revitalize your process because the process has become outdated. Because of external environment, there are certain things which are happening. For that, the process becomes obsolete. And that's why you need to redesign it. Because of certain natural calamities, natural things that are happening, the creeping in bureaucracy could be the reason. There are unofficial standards which are set. You can see that from the symptoms in the organizations. If you have too much of exchange of information, if the data is not useful, and if you have more of control activities than the value experience one, then you should require the redesigning of the process, because our aim behind redesigning is we want to reduce our failure points, we want to reduce the cycle time, we want to increase the productivity and the satisfaction of our customers. Well, to do that, we should have our approaches ready. Eliminate the non-value added facilities so as to have sync with the frontline and backend operations. Provide self-service so as to minimize your cost. Provide direct services so as to provide the customized service. Provide bundling of services. If your target audience want that, accordingly design bundling of services, and then you can redesign the physical evidence accordingly. These are our approaches for redesign. Then comes treat your customer as your co-producer. Well, the involvement of customers during the production process of services varies from high, medium and low. You may require him to assist you. You may require him to be taking fully participative in the process, and you may not require him at all. So treat customers as your partial employees. Give them the role that they deserve. Identify the customers who could play the role very well based on their competence. Maintain the relationships with your customers. For that, you should have the mutual understanding with them. Well, as long as you are treating them as your partial employees, Have the process like you have with your employees. Recruit them, select them, best suitable job. You should have the right people for the right job. Job analysis should be done. They should know their roles. Give them training, motivate them, appraise them, educate them, and as soon as your transaction gets over, end your relationship there and there, so as to have the fruitful results in future. Well, if you have done that, self-service technologies would come over here in case of high customers involvement cases. In the case of information-based services, wherein the core part as well as supplementary part has been delivered using technology. So in that case, self-service technology is beneficial. If we see the advantages and disadvantages, self-serving technology helps us because it consumes less time and cost. It's fast, it's flexible, it is customized. You have the control over the delivery of the service. At the same time, if you see the disadvantages, if the customer is not well versed with the system, with the mechanism, if he wants to interact with the people only, then you cannot have self-service technology. At the same time, if the customer gets the machine, the SST machine at the right location, he would be happy. If he gets the information that he requires entirely in the machine, then he would be happy. But in the case of whether the system or the server goes down, if there's connectivity issues, if he himself messed up with the passwords or he presses the wrong button, in that case he would not be comfortable. So in that case, you should ask certain questions to yourself, whether the system is reliable. If not, if yes, ask yourself whether it is better than the interpersonal relationship or transaction. And in case of any recovery, do you have the alternative system to replace in any contingency situations? By doing that, then you ask your customers, you engage them using your marketing communication mix. You engage them, you improve them, allow them for change. You explain them the rationales and the benefits, what they're expecting to do differently in future, explain them. This is how you can involve them in your self-serving technology. This is how we end our service process chapter, wherein the process should be in sync with the frontline and the backline operations. So that just does it from my side. I've taken the reference from the book Service Marketing by Lavlaw. Thank you very much. Keep learning.